Long break had begun at Stardom schools. The loud bell rang across the compound, and instantly the quiet classrooms came alive. Children poured out into the corridors with excitement. Laughter echoed everywhere. Pupils from both the primary and secondary sections rushed toward the playgrounds. Some sat under trees to eat their food, while others chased each other across the fields. For the students, long break was the happiest part of the school day. But for the teachers, it was a time for vigilance. Principal Beppo and the teachers on duty moved carefully around the school compound, keeping watchful eyes on the students. They had learned from experience. In the past, careless play had led to injuries. One or two pupils had broken an arm, and even a leg during break time. So the teachers walked through the corridors and playgrounds, making sure that excitement did not turn into danger. While the students enjoyed their freedom, another story was quietly unfolding inside the administrative building. Inside her spacious office sat Mrs. Ibidun Gloss, the managing director of Stardom Schools. She had just finished her lunch. After eating, she quietly slipped into a small room connected to her office. Very few people in the entire school community knew about that room. Even those who knew she sometimes disappeared into it never truly understood why. The truth was something Mrs. Gloss had lived with for more than 30 years. She suffered from a painful medical condition that affected her buttocks. Whenever she sat for too long, a sharp, burning pain spread through her body. It felt like pepper on a wound. Over the years, she had visited doctors both within Nigeria and abroad. She had also tried spiritual prayers and traditional treatments, but nothing had worked. Eventually, she accepted it as a condition she would have to live with. Fortunately, it did not stop her from working. Whenever the pain became too much, she would quietly step into that private room to lie down and rest. After a few minutes of rest that afternoon, Mrs. Gloss stood up again. But instead of returning directly to work, she decided to take a short walk around the school environment. It was a small decision, one she would soon realize was very important. As she walked across the compound, she suddenly remembered a piece of land the school had purchased 2 years earlier. The property was located about 5 minutes away from the school's back gate. Almost without thinking, she decided to inspect it. When she arrived at the back gate, the two security guards immediately stood at attention. One of them quickly opened the gate for her. Both guards attempted to follow her, but she stopped them. "Only one of you should come with me," she said calmly. The other guard returned to his post. The one who followed her was Jumbo. When they arrived at the fenced property, Mrs. Gloss stopped walking. Something was wrong, very wrong. The land had been turned into a parking space. About half of the 3 plots were filled with cars, different brands. None of them looked brand new, but they were clearly being used regularly. Mrs. Gloss stared at the vehicles in disbelief. Before she could speak, Jumbo quickly explained. "Our staff park here, Ma." Mrs. Gloss turned slowly toward him. "Which staff?" she asked. "Our teachers and other staff," Jumbo replied. The answer only made things more confusing. Mrs. Gloss knew the school already had a staff car park inside the compound, and she also knew which staff members owned cars. So why were so many vehicles parked here? Jumbo then said something that made her even more curious. "Ma, not everyone brings their car into the school." The meaning behind his words was clear. Some staff members were deliberately hiding their cars from management. Mrs. Gloss began inspecting the vehicles carefully. Many of them carried the Stardom Schools sticker. So Jumbo was telling the truth. She saw Toyotas, Hyundais, Mazdas. One large Toyota model, popularly called Muscle by drivers, stood proudly among the vehicles. Then she noticed something else. Two buses were parked at the far corner. One was white, the other was painted bright Lagos yellow. Her heart skipped a beat. A troubling thought crossed her mind. Were some staff members secretly operating commercial transport businesses? Was money leaking somewhere in the school's finances? Anger mixed with fear began to rise within her. Immediately, she pulled out her phone. She called the school accountant and the principal. They needed to explain what was happening. The accountant arrived first. "Good afternoon, madam," he greeted respectfully. But Mrs. Gloss was not in the mood for pleasantries. "Accountant," she said sharply, "what is happening in this school?" "Great things, madam. I didn't call you for a motivational speech," she interrupted. Her voice rose with tension. "How safe is this school? How secure is our money?" Before the accountant could answer, she continued. "Where are teachers, gardeners, and storekeepers getting money to buy cars?" Just then, Principal Bepo arrived. The principal and the accountant exchanged a quick glance. They understood the situation immediately. The MD suspected financial fraud. Calmly, Bepo asked the security guard to return to his duty post. Then he turned to Mrs. Gloss. "Ma'am," he said gently, "let us discuss this in your office." Back in the office, the explanation finally came. The school's finances were intact. No money had been stolen. The cars had been purchased through personal efforts. Many teachers had taken loans, but the biggest source of funding was the school's cooperative society. Staff members borrowed money from the cooperative and repaid the loans gradually through salary deductions. About half of the 17 vehicles outside had been bought through that system. The explanation calmed the MD slightly, but it also raised another question. "How much money does this cooperative have?" she asked sharply, "that it can buy every fool a car?" The word fool hung heavily in the air. Neither the principal nor the accountant found it amusing. The next day, Mrs. Gloss called an emergency board meeting. The board consisted entirely of family members. Her mother, Chief Mrs. Solape Aji, was the chairman. Her siblings Martins Aji and Oye Aji were also members. When the cooperative account details were revealed, everyone was shocked. The cooperative society had 95 million naira in its account, and more than 50 million naira had already been loaned out. Chief Ajay frowned deeply. "This is dangerous," she said slowly. "It is like hanging a snake on the roof and going to bed." The room fell silent. "What if the staff rebel one day," she continued, "and use this money to start their own school? They already know how this one works." After careful discussion, the board made a firm decision. From that day forward, no staff member could borrow more than 250,000 naira from the cooperative. Any loan above 100,000 naira would require the approval of the managing director, and management would be fully informed about the cooperative's leadership and elections. It was a decision that would forever change the operation of the Stardom Cooperative Society. And all of it began with a simple walk during long break.